To call someone a hypocrite or to tell them that they are a Pharisee is pretty much the same thing. They symbolize what is sinister and false. The Pharisees was one of the most vicious of all those who hated and opposed Jesus. And yet at the same time, the Pharisees followed the law and did what they were supposed to do. They paid their debts, they observed their religious rituals, and were leaders in the community, very upright citizens as such. And yet we hear Jesus telling them and telling us, unless your holiness surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall not enter the kingdom of God. Being a strict follower of the rules just isn't enough. Jesus expects us to be better than just followers of rules. So we wonder here, what's going on here? And in answer to that question, we need to kind of see that in the mind of Jesus, righteousness is not a question of merely observing the commandments. It is not a question of what I must do to observe the law. It is a question of how much more I can do, how much more I want to do. And following Jesus, the requirements of the law are way down the street, way down on the ladder. It is what is in our hearts and souls that matters. The goodness of the Pharisees were all superficial. They only kept up appearances. They didn't commit murder, but their hearts were filled with hatred. So just because we appear to be good on the outside doesn't necessarily mean that we are good on the inside. We may never commit adultery, but our hearts can be filled with lust. We may never be convicted of theft, but we can rob another person of their value in the eyes of others. We may not steal, but we can cheat and thereby take from others what is rightfully theirs. You don't have to use a gun or a knife to destroy another person, and you don't need to beat them up another person with clenched fists. You can batter them with abusive language, demean and humiliate them. You can talk them down in front of others. You can stab them in the back with your whispered words. You may never commit adultery, but you can use other people simply to satisfy your own pleasure. You can use other people simply as objects for your own personal gain. Remember, it is what in your heart that matters. You may never physically hurt or harm another person, but you can ignore them and give them little or no attention. You can give them that silent treatment. You can freeze them out of your icy heart and give them a cold stone instead of a warm heart. You may think that you're better than everyone else, even better than most people around you, and proudly you can set yourself above all others, all the while forgetting that the word Pharisee in Hebrew means precisely that. One who is separate and apart from others. One who is chosen. One who is special. So someone who thinks they are above everyone else. The truth is that all people, each one of us here, are a strange mixture of good and bad. Our motives are mixed too. We hardly ever decide to do anything for one simple reason. Usually we decide to do things for an array of motives that are both good and bad and selfish and unselfish. What Jesus is trying to get across is that he wants us to have a clean record on the outside and a clean heart on the inside. It is genuine love that matters, not just words or appearances. To have that sort of goodness that Jesus wants us to have, we must go way beyond simply not telling a lie. We must disclose the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. There's a big difference between not lying and telling the whole truth. And if you're not aware of that difference, you haven't been listening to the news over the past year. Laws are good things. Laws preserve and protect values, and values are what we want to have not only for ourselves, but also value for our society. But laws are only superficial and external. No law ever made us good. Laws only direct us away from evil. They don't direct us towards that good itself. Just because a man takes an oath in a court, that doesn't mean that he won't go out into the street and lie through his teeth because he is outside of the building and he's not under oath anymore. If someone signs a written legal contract to do or not to do a certain thing, that doesn't mean that he or she will do what is wanted. It only means that he or she will not do what's not wanted. What's wanted is the ability we should all have to rely on something and someone doing what they say they will do, whether they're under contract or not. It's one's word that matters. One's word given from one's heart, not simply words that are so easily said. Jesus looked at all of this external and superficial posturing and cried out, "Look, why don't we just forget all this game-playing nonsense and simply tell each other the whole simple truth? If you say yes, let it mean simply and totally yes. And if you say no, let it mean simply and completely no. If you give your word, simply and completely keep it." To observe means to follow the letter of the law. To live it means to go beyond the letter, to go beyond the mind and allow it to sink in the heart. And for this reason, the Lord did not allow himself to be limited by traditions and customs and even by the times. He went straight to the heart of the matter of things and cut right through to the stony hearts of the people he was addressing. True Christians do not ask whether something is legal or illegal and then stop. They love God, they love Jesus, and they love their brothers and sisters. And their only concern is how they can serve and love them more. They want to work with Jesus and his brothers and sisters to build up the kingdom of God. And no matter how much they do, they know they can still do more, that they can still love more. Just doing the minimum is not enough. Obedience to the minimum requirements of law is not enough. What Jesus taught and what he showed us is that love knows no boundaries.